You're a man of action. You live life to the fullest, embrace your fears, and boldly chart your own path. When life knocks you down, you get back up one more time, every time. You are not easily deterred or defeated. Rugged, resilient, strong. This is your life. This is who you are. This is who you will become. At the end of the day, and after all is said and done, you can call yourself a man.
Gentlemen, what is going on today? My name is Ryan Mickler, and I am the host and founder of this podcast, The Order of Man. I am glad that you are joining us today. If you're new, this one's a little different than our interview shows that we do each and every week. Typically on Tuesdays, we're interviewing guys like Jocko Willink, Lewis Howes, Andy Priscilla, Grant Cardone, Tim Kennedy. I mean, you name it, we're having conversations with some of the most successful men on the planet. We're extracting their wisdom, and we're delivering it straight to you, to your earbuds. So I'm glad that you're here. But again, this one's a little different. This is our Friday Field Notes where you get to hear from me for about 10 to 15 minutes or so, whether you want to or not. I guess if you didn't want to, you could just tune it off. So hopefully you want to listen to me about some things that I've been thinking about from throughout the week about masculinity, what it means to be a man, and how we can be better fathers, husbands, business owners, community leaders, and just better men in general in our lives. I've got a good one lined up, I think, today. I've had a lot of questions lately about the new book I just came out with, Sovereignty, The Battle for the Hearts and Minds of Men. And I get emails and I get messages and I get texts from you guys who want to learn a little bit more about the process. Because I think a lot of you probably have, or at least believe that you have, a book inside of you. So today I'm going to talk about the goods, the bads, the things that worked well for us, the things that didn't go so well, and then just give you some guidelines, some systems and some processes in a system that you can use to decide whether or not you are going to write your own book, your own work. So before I get into that, let me give you a couple of quick announcements. Number one, if you would, we need to grow this, guys. We really need to grow this. It's been amazing to see the growth and the trajectory that we're on right now, but of course, I would like to see that grow even more. I realize that comes with time and patience, but I also want to be aggressive in the growth that we're seeing here because I think this is a message, and I wouldn't be sharing this message if I didn't believe this was true, but it's something that we need so bad in society. You know, I look around and I see a lot of wonderful, amazing things. And I think, generally speaking, we're more educated, we're healthier, we're wealthier. I think also peace is spreading, democracy is spreading. I mean, there's so much good in this world. But I also see, on the other hand, a dismissal. It's a general dismissal of this notion of masculinity, what it means to be a man, why men are so valuable in society. And what I've been thinking about this week is not only is it an attack on masculinity itself, but it's also an attack on femininity. Because if there is no importance in what it means to be a man, then quite honestly, there's no importance in what it means to be a woman either. And so as much as I'm not talking necessarily about damaging thoughts about what it means to be a man or a woman, I am suggesting that we maybe consider reclaiming what each of those means, because there are definitely a need for strong men and strong women in society today. And what we're doing here is we're covering one side of that equation, which is to help us, me included, become the men that we are meant to be. And when we do that, guys, we are called to be protectors, providers, and presiders. And when we step into that calling and we arm ourselves with the tools and the skills and the abilities and the processes to step fully into that role, I think life gets better. Life just gets better. It gets better for us. It gets better for our bank account. It gets better for our relationships. It gets better for the conversations we're having and our health. It gets better for our families. It gets better for the businesses that we're engaging in. It gets better for the communities and the countries. I mean, you name it. It's just better. It's better for humans in general when there are strong, noble, virtuous, honorable men who know exactly what it means to be a man, and they're willing and capable of stepping into that calling. So that's what we're doing here. Again, this one's a little bit different because you're hearing from me, and I'm going to be talking about writing a book, which isn't necessarily a masculine thing to do, but I think it's something that you guys want to hear from. So we'll get into that in a minute. So make sure, guys, on the note of just growing this movement, that you subscribe, you leave us a rating and review. I think we're getting close to 1,000 rating and reviews, which is very, very cool. I'm honored and I'm humbled by that. And then just go ahead and share it. All right, just share this show, share this movement, invite guys to join the Facebook group or follow me on Instagram. We're doing a lot more on Instagram lately. It's at my personal Instagram, so it's at Ryan Michler, and my last name is spelled Michler. So it's at Ryan Michler. Doing a little bit more on Twitter lately, at Order of Man, and just share. All right, communicate with me, engage with me. I'm pretty good about responding back and just having conversations with you guys who engage with me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Outside of that, just a couple other things. Number one is the Iron Council. This is our band of brothers, 360 men inside of the Iron Council right now. And we're talking about this month the idea of vision and values, because I believe there's a lot of men out there who probably know what it means to be a man, and yet they have no vision for the future, no real clear sense of direction and purpose for what it is they're supposed to be doing with themselves, with their families, with their businesses, all those areas that we talked about earlier. And inside the Iron Council, we're having these discussions. We're doing challenges. We're holding each other accountable. And we're doing, frankly, what men do when we band together, which is to improve. You know, you can go at it alone and you can pretend that you have this thing all figured out, but the reality paints an entirely different picture. When I was going at it alone, I was producing significantly less results than when I was operating with, and currently, a band of brothers, guys who want to succeed, who are doing the things to succeed, and then they're helping me do the things to succeed as well. So you can check that out at orderofman.com/Iron Council, orderofman.com/Iron Council. And then the last thing before I get into my thoughts for today, we are talking about the book writing process. A lot of you guys know a couple of months ago, or I think it was about a month, maybe 6 weeks or so ago, I released the book, Sovereignty, The Battle for the Hearts and Minds of Men. It is available on Amazon. Finally, for those of you who have been following for any amount of time, know a little bit about the battle we've been dealing with there. But it's available on Amazon, available on Barnes & Noble. Again, it's called Sovereignty. The subtitle is The Battle for the Hearts and Minds of Men. So pick up a hardback cover, a paperback, the ebook, the Audible version, which I read myself. And again, that's a great way to support what we're doing, but then learn some of the tools and the skills and the things that I've been developing and implementing in my life for the past 10 years or so. So check it out. Again, orderofman.com/book, orderofman.com/book, and then you can pick up the book there. All right, guys, let's get into this subject, this discussion today. I thought I would pull back again the curtain and just share with you a little bit about this process of writing the book. You know, I've received, again, a lot of messages since we published Sovereignty, The Battle for the Hearts and Minds of Men, about what it's taken to write the book, the challenges, the victories, the things that went well, and the things that didn't go so well in making this book available to you. So let's face it, and I want to start here, that writing a book is it's not an easy process. It's a painstakingly slow journey that really causes you to question your own sanity in some way. You know, sometimes you run across days where you feel 100% committed to the process, and other days, I mean, there was just days I wanted to quit and I wanted to throw in the towel and scrap the whole idea altogether. So again, since I received so many questions about the process, I figure I'd give you some insight, and then you can decide. You can decide from there if writing a book is something that you want to take part in. We're going to cover the reason that you need a strong why when it comes to writing a book, the actual process, including some of the tools that I use, which were very, very simplistic. I'll mention that later. The timeline that you can follow, what format you should consider publishing in, and then whether or not you should find a publisher or go ahead and self-publish it. So those are the topics. Those are the areas that I want to address. Now, guys, I got to give this disclaimer. And I don't like giving disclaimers because I hope most people can figure this out, but not everybody can, as evidenced by the emails and messages that I receive from people who find exceptions to everything I say. But the disclaimer is this. I am not, guys, the subject matter expert on this. All right. I haven't been doing this for a long time. I'm not a New York Times bestselling author. Did very, very well on Amazon. I feel good about the book that we wrote. But again, I am not the subject matter expert. I'm just sharing my journey with you. If you're genuinely ready to write a book and you want detailed instructions or the intricacies of the process, there's plenty more qualified resources than what I'm going to share with you here in the next 15-minute podcast or so. All right, so find those. If you're ready to go, find those. This is just a 30,000-foot overview so you can know a little bit about what I went through over the past 3-4 months. All right, so first, let's talk about the why. I truly believe that you have to have a strong reason for writing a book. I don't really like the term find a why because it's so overused and I think the meaning is lost, but really you've just got to have a strong reason for doing what you're going to do. If you're going to successfully write a book, you have to know why you're doing it, and it has to be emotionally driven, and it has to be strong. Just because someone told you that writing a book was a good idea, or you saw my book and you thought, well, I'd like to do that, or you think you quote unquote should write a book, it doesn't mean that actually writing a book is in your cards. The truth is that it's not always the most enjoyable experience, as with anything, right? Anything is going to have its ups and downs. So in order to keep the movement and the process alive and sustainable, you're going to have to find a strong reason for continuing to move through that process even when you don't want to. And there will be days that you do not want to write. I'll tell you more about that in a minute. But for me, I took this book as a challenge. I don't particularly enjoy writing. I've never done much of it. Even in high school, my reports weren't all that great when I had to write and do those sorts of things, and book reports and all of that kind of stuff. So the challenge for me was appealing. I try to put myself in positions where I'm challenging myself and doing things that I normally wouldn't do. But I also firmly believe in what our mission here is. I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't believe wholeheartedly in what we're doing. And because I believe so strongly in my mission, I knew that writing a book was one additional way to spread this message to the men who would not otherwise know what we're all about. And so when there were days when I thought, I'm going to throw in the towel, I'm not going to do this, I don't want to write today, it was the mission. It was the purpose. It was the drive that kept me going past those days into days where I was motivated and inspired to write it. That's what kept me going when things were challenging. So finding a strong reason. Number 2, the process. It's very simple, guys. Very simple. Do not overthink this. If you are trying to write a book or thinking about writing a book, please, I beg of you, do not overlook this simplicity. Just write. That's all I want you to do. Just write. Too many people try to overlook the simplicity that I'm talking about. They try to game the system. But at the end of the day, if you can't find time to sit down in a chair and behind a computer screen and just crank out words and do that every single day, you're just not going to complete your work. You won't do it. So that's exactly what I decided to do. I wrote roughly 63,000 words in 60 days. And some people hear that and think, I could never do that. And others are like, well, that's too easy. That's just what I did. All right. What I do isn't necessarily going to work for you, but I wrote 1,000 words every single day. Now, okay, let me back up because that's probably not entirely true. There were some days that I missed. All right. There were some days that I didn't write 1,000 words or only a couple hundred or not at all, but I more than made up for those missed days the following day. I didn't let those things compound because again, I wrote those 63,000 words in 60 days. That's it. It's that simple. And for me, I used Microsoft Word. A lot of people ask me what I use. Microsoft Word is what I used up until about 15 or 20,000 words. And then I started to lose it a little bit because it really wasn't organized. It was one big document. And I know a lot of writers were using a program called Scrivener. So I bought that. I can't remember exactly how much it was. You can look that up. Not very much. And I switched over about 20,000, maybe 15,000 or so words into it. And it was so much easier. I mean, it really was. The chapters were easy to organize. There was a little bit of a learning curve. The search function within Scrivener is so much better than what you would experience with Microsoft Word. So for me, that was a good move. If you're even thinking about using Scrivener, I would just use it from day one as opposed to switching over, because that was a little bit of a pain trying to switch from Word to Scrivener with the learning curve and all of that. So it doesn't matter though, guys, at the end of the day. It doesn't really matter what you use as long as the program you use is going to help you crank out those words. That's the most important thing. It's like a workout. You know, people ask me all the time, what's the best workout? Well, the best workout's the one you'll do. So if you're doing strength training and you hate strength training and you're not going to do it and you're going to sit on the couch or sleep in instead, well, that's not really a great workout. If CrossFit is something that you've heard is good and you're not going to get up and that doesn't motivate you or inspire you, and so you're going to sit around and be lazy and do the things you've always done, then CrossFit isn't the workout for you. So find something that works for you. Microsoft Word, or Scrivener. There's a ton of programs out there that you can use. That's just what I happen to use. Now, outside of that, once I got about halfway through, what I thought was about halfway through, so about 30,000 words or so under my belt, I started to research graphic designers. I started to research editors. You're going to want both if you're going to write a book. You need a graphic designer. Don't do it yourself, or don't hire your uncle or your cousin who one time made a crappy logo for your son's lawn mowing business or something. That's not what you want. All right. You want professional work here. So what I did is I interviewed several graphic designers, several editors. My graphic designer is somebody I've already worked with. I've seen a ton of his work already. We talked, we had a good feel and fit for each other. I liked his style. He was on top of things. If you want an introduction to him, I can certainly make that for you. And then same thing with editors. I just put a call to our editors inside the Iron Council, which I mentioned earlier, and the guys stepped up. I had about 6 to 8 different professional editors. These weren't just random people. These were professional editors. And I used one of our brothers inside the Iron Council. I used his wife as an editor, and she just did an amazing, amazing job. I wouldn't have been able to do it without her. So she was very thorough. She didn't agree with all my points, but that doesn't matter. She appreciated them. And she even told me, hey, I don't agree with this point, but that being said, it's not even really articulated all that well, so you need to articulate it a little better. Or she agreed with a point and she told me to clean it up. She was just good that way. She really gave me some insight, but didn't try to change the book. And that's what you want in an editor and a formatter that way. And again, I would just suggest, and word of caution, that you don't use cheap designers. Don't use cheap editors. Don't attempt to do this yourself unless you're a professional. Don't attempt to do it yourself. I wouldn't even edit it myself because you're too attached to it. You can't see your errors and how you communicate and how it comes across. So find professionals, all right? Spend a little money. If you want a professional looking book, a professional feeling book, something people are going to be proud to hold, proud to show off, proud to gift, then you got to hire professionals to help you do it. And it's hard because you have to spend money. You have to pay for that. But again, it's going to come back. It's an investment in your book. It's an investment in your message and movement. All right. Next, guys, timeline. I've been thinking about writing a book for years now. I've been thinking about writing a book, but it really wasn't until I got serious and I shortened this timeline. I already told you 63,000 words roughly in 60 days. Guys, this was not easy. It really took its toll on me. It took a toll on its business. I was exhausted. Mentally, physically, emotionally, never really got to the point where I was like, I'm done, I'm not going to do this. But I was exhausted. I was tired. But I really, again, had a strong reason to do it and just to keep pushing through. And I knew I could see the light at the end of the tunnel, and I just kept driving. I talked with a publisher, which I'm going to talk more about in the next point that I'll make. But I talked with a publisher about how quickly I wanted to get the book out into public. It was a very, very very short timeline. The next book I write's definitely going to be a little bit longer timeline. I had my graphic designer working on the formatting while I was actually writing the book. So I didn't wait to finish till I got a graphic designer. He was working on it while I was writing the book. And then my editor would review a batch of chapters at a time, again, while I was working on the next part of the book. So we were overlapping tasks and just really cranking it out. It worked because I was able to get the book out quick, and that's what motivated me, inspired me to do it. But again, I probably lengthen out the timeline a little bit more on my next one and really, really do it the right way so we could be a little bit more thorough in that. But again, everything was overlapped since we had such a short deadline to meet. Again, it worked for me because it forced me to keep moving, but definitely on the next book, I'm going to expand that timeline. Since I know, right now I know I'm capable of seeing this all the way through to the end, and I proved it to myself, and now I'm working from a different perspective, a different framework. But you'll have to play with the timelines, talk with a publisher, talk with other people who've written books, and just find something that works for you so that you can be consistent. That's the key. You want to be consistent. All right, next point, format. All right, you can go paperback, hardcover, ebook, audio version. Those are the 4 main formats. I can't even really think what it would be outside of that. Since I had the idea of writing sovereignty, I knew that I wanted to do a hardcover book. In my mind, I wanted to write this quote unquote real book, as if paperback isn't a real book. That's not the case, but that's what I had in my mind. It worked for me, and that's what I wanted. So that's what I did. But the version you choose, it doesn't really matter as long as it's high quality. It has to be high quality. If you're going to do an audio version, for example, have it professionally done. Go into a professional recording studio. I did it in my office because I'm a podcaster, so I have professional equipment. So people ask me, where did you do your audio recording? Well, I did it right here because I've got the stuff. I've got the technology to do it. Just do it professionally. If it's paperback, professional. Hardcover, professional. Ebook, professional. Audio version, professional. It's very, very important that you do it professionally. There's so many programs out there where you can get this stuff done and people will do it for $5 or $20 or whatever it is. And yeah, it might work and you might get some books out there, but I'm more interested in the long play. So I want to put information and works that I can put my stamp, my seal of approval on, because I know it's going to be out there forever. And I want it to be out there forever. I want it to be something that people gift and they pass on to other people and their kids. And that's what I wanted. So that's why I decided to do it professionally. And that's why initially I decided to do the hardcover. But since I got that hardcover out and done, I also did the ebook at the same time. I released the paperback version. Now the audio version is available now. So I've got all 4 versions out. But one thing I would suggest on the audio version is that you read it yourself. All right, if you're going to do an audio version, read it yourself, especially if you have an audience. People know you, they like you, they trust you, and your voice has weight. All right, there's weight behind your voice, especially for me since I'm a podcaster. I mean, people listen to my voice. So if I had anybody else read my book, frankly, it just would have been weird. So I read my own book and I get compliments every single day. I really like how you read it. I really like the passion. Well, yeah, there's passion because those are my words. That's my belief. Those are my viewpoints. So yeah, I'm passionate about it. So I got a lot of praise for that. So again, if you're going to do an audio version, read it yourself. All right, make sure you read it. It's much more powerful. It's much more relatable to your audience. And again, the format doesn't really matter all that much. Is just make it work for you. And my goal was to create something that would reach the masses. I wanted to reach as many people as possible, so I opted to make every version available. Hardcover, paperback, ebook, audio. All right, guys, and the last point that I want to make is whether you want to have a publisher or you want to self-publish. Whether you go with a publisher or decide to self-publish it, this is a difficult proposition to answer. There's pros and cons to both. I opted to go with a publisher on this round since it was my first, and I really had no idea what I was doing. And their expertise with the publisher was invaluable when it came to formatting and hitting my timetable and making sure we worked into all the distribution channels that were available. Those were really, really important to me. But on my next book, I think I'm probably going to self-publish my next book. I know a little bit more about the process and what I'm doing. I'm going to lengthen the timeline out for a little bit more flexibility in my schedule. And this way I have complete control over the process itself. Self-publishing is easier than it's ever been, and it's becoming more and more popular for a reason. So that's the process, guys. It's really not all that complex, but it certainly isn't easy. Don't mistake the two. If you're interested in writing a book, wrap your head around the idea of a writing schedule. To me, that's the most important factor. And pick a schedule which you can maintain consistency. Again, consistency is so important, and that momentum and getting in the groove of writing, overcoming writer's block. Just be consistent. That's what's going to help you the most. From there, it's having a strong reason why you want to write a book, coming up with a timetable and a timeline, deciding again which format you want to choose, and then whether or not you're going to get a publisher or self-publish the thing. And for anyone who wants to write a book, I would first probably, if you were talking to me, try to talk you out of it. I'd try to talk you out of it because it's not for the faint of heart, and it's going to take its mental toll. But if you cannot be convinced to table the idea, then I would just suggest and encourage you to get started. It's not easy. It takes time. There's going to be ups. There's going to be downs, but it's one of the most rewarding experiences I've ever taken part in. So I hope that helps. I hope that gives you a little bit of an insight. Guys, as we wind things down today, again, if you are interested in the book, Sovereignty, The Battle for the Hearts and Minds of Men, go to orderofman.com/book. orderofman.com/book. I'd love for you to pick up a copy for yourself, your brother, your dad, your colleague, your coworker, your son, whoever it may be, and share that. And then leave a review. Leave an Amazon review. Let us know what you thought about the book. I think we've got right around 100 reviews right now. And I'm blown away with the praise and how excited people are about this book. And I appreciate you picking up a copy and the support that means to me as well. Outside of that, guys, the Iron Council, again, this month, we're talking about vision and values. Next month, we're talking about money, personal finances, investing, debt, budgeting, all that kind of stuff. So we've got a lot of good things going on in the Iron Council, the brotherhood, the camaraderie, the accountability, which is really, really important. And you can learn more at orderofman.com/Iron Council. So guys, that's all I have for you today. I hope you found that valuable. I hope you get some insight from that. Let's connect on Instagram at Ryan Mickler, Twitter at Order of Man, Facebook at Order of Man. And until next week, take action and become the man you are meant to be.
Thank you for listening to the Order of Man podcast. If you're ready to take charge of your life and be more of the man you were meant to be, we invite you to join the Order at orderofman.com.